The best
Yeah,
time
go
of the
ahead.
day to buy and sell. What is the best time of the day to buy or sell? Do you buy the opening or sell the opening? Do you
You
buy the
buy them before
close
they
or
go
sell
up.
the
It's
close?
very easy, Saz. You
Okay.
buy them before they go up. You sell them before they go down.
That is not the answer I'm looking for. Do you buy early, sell late, or sell early, buy late?
Yes.
No, you have to take a stand here. You can't be a wuss all your life.
No, you take a stand. You take a stand.
I already know the
telling,
answer.
in my opinion.
I already know the answer. So you're the only one that doesn't know the answer.
My people want to tell you to be quiet and let Jajun do the piece.
I'm asking you a question. Do you
I don't
buy
think there's
early?
any way of telling. I would say there's no way of telling for the fourth time. I would say there's no way of telling.
No way of telling.
I would say Jajun wasted 16 hours of his time and a lot of your money.
Jajun, you did not waste any time on this. In fact, this is one of the most in-depth studies we've ever done. How many pieces of data did you look at to do this study?
So we look at 2 million 5-minute bars. So we use a huge chunk of data and we try to extract insights from this huge chunk of data. And I'm a little bit surprised by what we found.
I said Jajun goes deep, man.
2 million.
The gentleman goes deep.
2 million pieces of data. And I want to ask you this, Jajun. Do you feel confident that you have unearthed something that will be very helpful for everybody watching today?
I think a lot of people will be taking out their notepads and taking notes. Stay until the end. The very good stuff are at the end. I think I will show you some interesting correlation that probably has not yet been published. So take a look. This will be the first time the interesting findings is shown.
I love it. So the study, is there intraday seasonality, whatever you want to call it, in the market indices and VIX futures? And what do the 5-minute bars reveal about the optimal timeframes to buy and sell? The source, 2 million counts of 5 million price and volume bars. We looked at the Dow, the S&Ps, the NASDAQ, IWM from 2009 to 2024, 3,800 days and 2,700 days of the VIX. I would say you got enough data in there. Key findings. Over 15 years of data, it shows that the major indices, ES, the NASDAQ, the S&Ps, the Dow, and the RUT, generally rise in the afternoon compared to the morning. The VIX typically declines around noon as the market volume reaccelerates. However, this pattern does not hold in September and December, which showed more range-bound, choppy trading demanded more skills. And we are obviously just entering into September. But what you're saying here, Jajun, is that as the VIX goes down, at some point during the day, the VIX is going to come in a little bit, and that's going to cross over the market going up a little bit, right? That's the inverse relationship between those two.
And this relationship will take place usually in the middle of the day, around 12:55 to 1 p.m. We will show more in depth later. And once that happens, the market index tends to rise. So the market index has a tendency to rise in the afternoon, and the price in the afternoons will be generally higher than in the morning. And there's a specific time in the morning that you want to pay attention to.
This is a classic heat map. The green is the VIX, and the other 4 red bars or orange bars are the different various indices. And you can see they're lower in the morning and they're higher in the afternoon, and the VIX is higher in the morning and lower in the afternoon.
This is the answer. And this is taken from all 15 years. So from the 15-year perspective, in this large sum of data, 2 million data, this is the finding we have, which is all the indexes tend to have a lower percentile price in the morning than the afternoon. So we do this by percentile. Whatever the price of the day may be, the morning will be in a lower percentile compared to the afternoon. In the afternoon, particularly past 1 p.m., you can see how everything is turning green, which means that the afternoon prices in terms of percentile would generally be higher on average compared to those in the morning, which means if you buy in the morning, you will generally find yourself being able to sell at a higher price in the afternoon. There are, of course, some nuances, and we will cover this as we move on, but this is the general findings. And you can tell that the VIX is particularly strong. The very green part of the VIX is during around 10:15 a.m. Eastern. This is when the VIX is the most pronounced, when it's the highest. But after that, the VIX tend to decline. And after the noon, VIX tend to go down consistently.
Yeah, I think I've always felt that the VIX is, tends to consolidate and go lower in the afternoon. But I never thought about it as markets up in the morning and down. Market down in the morning and up in the afternoon. I just always thought about it as a VIX. It's kind of weird. I never put the those two and two together. And
So this is
the crossover that we talked about, where you're seeing the VIX in red and all the other indices in the various colors, and they cross over around noon, what you're saying.
Yes, and you want to pay attention to the height. In what time of the day do the VIX rise the highest? So we take some 13 years of VIX data and we calculate for every one of the 5-minute bar in terms of average percentile, and we find the one 5-minute percentile that is the highest is the 10:15 a.m. Eastern. The 10:15 a.m. Eastern has the highest average percentile of VIX price, meaning that for the great majority of time, this bar will be the highest price for the VIX. And then after that, VIX enters into inevitable downtrend. And whereas for the market index, they tend to bottom around this time, and then they tend to continuously rise until 3, 4, 5 p.m. There will be some nuances because there are actually some difference in different months. Like at the end of this, I will talk about how September is very different, but this is just in terms of general. In terms of the overall data we have, you should believe that on the intraday basis, the second half of the day is generally better.
Okay.
Oh my God, Sadnaf, he found the noon balloon. We've been talking about it since 1983.
Yes, Jejun, it's always been called the noon balloon. But now you know why it's called the noon balloon.
I don't need to know how the sausage is made. I just need to know the sausage.
Well, I like to put a statistic behind the arguments. A lot of people know about these things, but they do so with experience. And to me, everybody has experience and opinions. But if you can back it up with data, you can trade more confidently and you have a better grasp of the idea. And this one is based on the volume. So this is a chart showing the intraday volume. And what you can see here based on our 2 million data is that the volume is in a U shape. And this is not a secret, but pay attention to when the volume starts to bottom. It's always 12:55 p.m. to 1 p.m. During this time, the volume of the day always bottom. From all the sample space we have, when we put them together, you realize that there's a certain number of time, which is during this midday, that the volume start to bottom and then start to reaccelerate. And this time also happens to be the time when the VIX start to plunge in general. And I believe that this may have to do with just the more liquidity, the more the volume coming back, it is somehow would make the market rise higher and cause the VIX to start to concede and start to go lower. So think of the middle of the day as a very critical momentum change point. Let's say that we want to know if this is just the case for January or for February. Let's see if every month's different. So volume actually is one of those things that is very consistent. So for the past 15 years, every one of the months from January to December, the volume follow the same trend. They always bottom around 12:55 to 1 p.m. So for 15 years, somehow the market has always preferred to trade it this way, which is high in the volume, high in the morning, high at the end of the day, but somehow in the middle of the day, it decided that this is the time to bottom and they decide to buy again. So this may be the preference of market participants as a whole, but we know if you are somebody who's a trend trader, you want to go with a wave, you want to go with a lot of volume coming in, you wait for that moment of 12:55, which is a very ideal point of a lot of volume coming in all of a sudden. And some traders can profit from this by employing certain strategies. Yeah.
This is giving Tony a lot of extra information that may be unfair.
Might be dangerous.
Maybe he may become dangerous and unfair to everybody else, just so you know. Let's go to the next slide.
So this is a very good chart. So this is something that everybody should screenshot right now. What you are looking over here is the correlation between average percentile of the day and time. So what this means is that the more green something is, the more likely that you're going to have a lower morning and higher afternoon, meaning that the price will go up from low to top along with time. So basically 9:30 all the way to 4, the price will generally go up with time. So the more green, the more linear this relationship, this correlation between the average price percentile and time. And what you can see here is that for all the market index, for nearly every month, the correlation is very, very high, except some month, which one of them is our current month in September, and the other one is December. If you pay attention to September, this correlation become weaker. Actually, if you take a look at YM, which is Dow Jones, this correlation actually is very weak, which means that even though for all other months except September and December, market tend to rise from the bottom in the morning to the high in the afternoon. This may be a different case for September. And take a look at the color for the VIX. You see the orange right there. That orange is a sign that VIX in September tend not to follow its normal path. Normally, VIX by noon, it would start to peak and it would start to plunge. But this is not the case for September. Over 13 years of data for VIX, we find that September is the month where the VIX tend to stay elevated in the afternoon. So we will show some more interesting data, but this is in general the idea that the weak morning and strong afternoon thesis will be true for the majority of months, with the exception of September and December.
Got it. That's really interesting. Crazy, but interesting.
And if you can pay attention to those very bullish months, like February, if you pay attention to the Nasdaq in February, the correlation is very strong.
It's going to drive us crazy.
So the next slide, actually, I have a little bit difficulty of seeing, but September chop. So currently we are in September, and I think what's most useful for our audience is to understand what's September's pattern. And if you realize that the red line here is the average percentile over 13 years for VIX, and you realize that VIX did not give up as normal. Usually VIX will give up by noon and it will start to plunge. But do you see how well it holds in the afternoon? It actually entangles with our indexes, and it fell only till the end of the day. At the last part of the day, it started to fall, which means in this situation, for most of September's in the past 13 years, VIX is capable of having a high noon, having a price in the noon that is equally high or higher than compared to the morning. This tells us in September, VIX do not give up easily in the afternoon. Normally, VIX will start to plunge by noon, but not September. And this will create a trading condition that is very choppy for our traders.
Okay. So I don't know if you're going to take a vacation in September.
I mean, this is better for me. I like markets that are much less predictable. Yeah. Let's go to next. I don't like markets that just go straight up. You know that.
By October, you start seeing this trend picking up again. That is the low morning, high afternoon thesis start coming back again. But this time the VIX would take a little bit longer to go down, but it's going down. So you see this trend start come back, but it will be, I think, from 1:30 to 2 o'clock. So it's not at noon. So at different month, there's a different preference in terms of when the VIX will start to plunge more often. But by October, you should expect to see the VIX plunge around 2 p.m. or something, much more often than before. But if you go to the next slide, you will see something very interesting. So the next slide is November. And November is one of those times in the past 15 years that's very bullish. And you see this is the most typical chart of all the 15 years we studied, which is you see a VIX rising to the high in the morning, but by the middle of the day it starts giving up and all the market index start to rise, and this crossover happens around the middle of the day. So this is a very typical of a bullish month. And
yeah, it's got a lot of holidays. November's always been like that. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next slide.
And this is just one of the worst months in the year, which is December. So December actually is the worst year in all our studies. And you can see that VIX is very elevated and you cannot tell which one is winning. VIX can be going up, but market index can also be going up. So it's just like chop. And so this is why December and September will both be known for their choppiness, for the failure to hold the trend. And people who want to just close your eye and long the market would see a lot of volatility crush, in my view. So you should expect a lot of chops and be prepared for certain strategies that can handle them. Yep.
I never ever would have guessed that December was the month with this kind of chop. Never. Because I always thought December was always kind of like just straight up.
A bullish event, but I think
there's a bullish event
in here.
Triple witching, the whole deal. So we have intraday price trends. The market typically rises in the afternoon with a significant momentum shift around 12:55 to 1 p.m. Couldn't you tighten that time up a little bit and make it like less than inside of 5 minutes? We need to work on that. Aided by increased market liquidity, obviously volume. Prices often hit their daily low about an hour after the opening, which is exactly what happened today, or just around the just a half hour after the opening, generally around 10:50 a.m., but by 10:55 in September, and then peak 15 minutes before closing. However, this pattern is less consistent in SEP and DEES due to the increased intraday volatility. Volume consistency. Volume patterns are consistent across all months, indicating that liquidity condition, that the liquidity condition of the day is always the same. The volume trend is U-shaped and usually bottoms out between 12:55 and 1. The September chop and December chop is not likely. Then we're talking about choppiness in September and December, and obviously you can go back and look at those charts. That was super interesting, and we are in that September chop right now. Look at this crazy NASDAQ reversal today and S&P reversal. The intraday price movements are more unpredictable in SEP and DEES, with lows occurring both in the morning and the afternoon. The VIX tends to stay elevated longer than usual in the day during these months, exactly what we're seeing right now. And option strategies that thrive on intraday choppiness can benefit due to more occurrences of range-bound trading days. And I think you saw a perfect example of that today.